we have Detective Joe Swallow. I took a class from him here at Sierra College on how to, parents can keep their children safe online. And I knew at that time I had to add him to the lineup to come talk to you. He is a wealth of knowledge. He began his law enforcement career in 2011 as a reserve deputy sheriff with the Placer County Sheriff's Office. And then in 2013, he was hired full-time with the Yuba City Police Department. And since then, he has served as a patrol officer, a defensive tactics instructor, a field training officer, and he is currently assigned to the investigations unit where he handles cases ranging from major theft to homicide. His specialty is in high-tech crime investigations, and he also serves as his department's digital forensic examiner. Detective Swallow received the 2024 Yuba City Police Department Officer of the Year Award for his work in dismantling human trafficking operations and also for mentoring fellow officers. So we are so lucky to have him, and please give a warm welcome to Detective Joe.
That way I can, you guys won't see me fidget with my hands. Okay. You guys hear me? Yes, no? Okay, cool. This is my personal information. I'm not here as a representative of my department. I'm here at my own, so this is my actual email address and my actual phone number. Like Christina mentioned, I have a class that I put on. It's about 3 hours to teach parents kind of the ins and outs of different apps, games, things like that kids are using, things I've seen in my own personal work experience, how kids came into contact with people that were looking to victimize them. So if you have a parent group, PTC, book club, church group, whatever, and you would like that presentation, please feel free to reach out to me. So like Christina mentioned, one of my duties is I'm a digital forensics examiner, which means that it's a fancy way of saying I'm the geek with a badge and a gun. So anytime that digital evidence is used as a means of a crime, either to store evidence or is used to facilitate the crime, I have about 1,000 hours worth of training in how to handle that evidence and how to examine it, interpret it, and be able to be used in court. So without saying, the current digital landscape, usually I like to ask people this question because the numbers I get is so wildly different, but currently in the App Store on Apple, on iTunes, there's about over 2 million apps. This was as of about 6 months ago. The Google Play Store has about 3 million apps, and there's apps for everything. So that's a lot of apps. Nobody can know anything about every single one of them, right? That's not even myself. I have too much other stuff to do. So this one that I'd like to point out is what is a calculator vault. It serves one purpose and one purpose only. It functions as an actual calculator. You can do your math homework with it. But that icon that it has, that may look familiar, that's used to be what the icon looked like for the calculator on an iPhone. So you would hide the original app, the original calculator app, download this one, and then anybody looking at your phone wouldn't know that that was what that was. When you open this app, you put in a passcode, it opens a vault. You can put in there whatever sort of documents, photos, pictures, and stuff that you don't want your parents to find within that app. So if you don't know the passcode, don't know the math equation, then it just functions like a calculator. So I like to point that one out to people, that that stuff is out there, it exists. What other purpose that serves other than to hide stuff from for kids to hide stuff from their parents, I have no idea. If so, if you have an idea, please let me know, but that's what that does. Certain apps to know. I spend a great deal of my time digging through people's phones, either as suspects or victims. So I will tell you now that if you're under the age of probably 25, the odds of you using your standard messaging service, that's like iMessage or regular SMS, to contact your friends is extremely low. It's actually very odd to find that. Teenagers these days are going to use your Instagram and your Snapchat to communicate with their friends. Everything's done over there. They use them for various different reasons. You'll notice they're the second bullet point for Instagram. Does anybody know what a Finsta is? Who was that? A fake Insta. Fake Instagram. So you have your regular Instagram. That's the one that you give to grandma and mom. And then you have your Finsta, where you have all of the more scandalous stuff that you post for you and your friends. So just a little tidbit of knowledge for you. The other one that's up there is Snapchat. The reason why that one is used is because the content on Snapchat tends to disappear over time, and you can kind of, depending on whether it's a snap or a message, it really hinders my ability as law enforcement to see that content. They're actually making it worse and worse now. You can actually set timers for chat messages, so when those chat messages are gone, they're gone from the device. I still think Snapchat has it, but if you ask them about the search warrant, they'll tell you no. The other thing on there is encrypted messaging. Typically, if I'm looking at a phone as part of a criminal investigation and I see some sort of encrypted messaging application, that's the first place I look, because that's usually there for one reason and one reason only: it's to hide stuff. And what I mean by encrypted is that it's what we call end-to-end encrypted. So without one half of that conversation or one piece by their victim device or suspect device, if I write a search warrant to, say, Signal, for example, saying, hey, this user account was involved in criminal activity and I want the message content, they're going to tell me to kick rocks. And they're not going to provide it to me. I have to have that device. So that's what we mean by encrypted. It's really kind of a pain in my side as far as my job is concerned. So some of the stuff, thankfully, was already covered, so I can kind of save some time here by not having to go over the definitions. One thing I do like to point out was mentioned briefly, the forced labor. Where I work down the hill, we have a really, if you've been down the hill to Yuba City or Marysville, we are surrounded on all sides by orchards and rice fields. So the forced labor in terms of the I was going to say ag department, but that's not right. Agricultural forced labor is huge down there. It's a big problem we're dealing with. But obviously the one that we are here about is the prostitution. So one thing, if you're familiar with the company Thorn, they're really big in terms of the digital aspect of fighting ICAC crimes and internet crimes against children. They develop a lot of the algorithms that my fancy, expensive software uses. They did a study and they found that if anybody entered the game or faced human trafficking after 2015, 55% of them met their traffickers online. I would imagine if they did that study again, it would be even worse than it is now. Someone also said this, that the dramatic abduction is rare. What you see in the movie Taken, I'm sure it does happen in major cities and other countries. That's not really what happens. In my experience from the cases that I've worked and the cases I've seen, it's almost always somebody that they know. It's somebody that built that trust, that contacted them, built trust, and developed that relationship. But that's what facilitated the human trafficking. We already said this, but I always like to ask, obviously this particular crime is most commonly affect girls, right? We already the chief went through kind of how this goes. From what I've seen in my investigations, the days of the trafficker having to go down to a mall and try to find his victims are kind of gone, right? Nobody really goes to a mall anymore. I couldn't tell you the last time I went to the Galleria. But he can sit in his hotel room or his apartment or wherever, and he can just message girls all day long until he finds some that are willing to engage in conversation with him, and then he just kind of tries to develop his relationship. Typically the ones I've seen are, hey, I'm a promoter, you're very good looking, would you like to make a lot of money? So they act like they're Instagram model agents, things like that. They just lie through their teeth about what they can offer, but it's all about money. They identify a need that the victim has and they try to fulfill that need, and who doesn't want more money, and especially what they think is easy money, right? They do all kinds of things. They fake, depending on, the chief from Nevada City kind of mentioned it, one of the terms we have is a Romeo pimp. Basically they fake a relationship with them, thinking that they're boyfriend, girlfriend, and then they go through that whole deal. I'm not going to rehash that. And then the push for travel. And then also the thing that technology has done in terms of human trafficking is how they set up their dates. He kind of showed you that snippet from the website Spotlight. That's a law enforcement tool that we use. But the dates, the website they're actually posted on, they're up right now. You can go on there and you can find them. Those are two of the ones that I've seen, that I've had in my own investigations. And if you know what you're looking for, you can easily identify the girls that are under 18. They obviously can't say that. They'll tell you that they're over 18, but by the way things are worded, or kind of like the pictures they use, you can tell, if you know what you're looking for, that they're actually minors. The way that this is actually going, let me back up. One reason that is important is the trafficker doesn't even have to actually be around. Once a girl is in the game and she is hooked and she feels helpless to get out, the trafficker can be in another state, and he can get her a hotel room, get her a rental car, say you're going to drive from here to here, and he's going to set up the dates himself. It's him on the other end of that posting on that website that's communicating with the John that sets up the dates. All she's got to do is show up to the hotel. We've had a few of those investigations as well, where the pimp was actually in Las Vegas, but our victim was located in my jurisdiction. So that's the way that that's going. Also, the new studies that I've seen mention OnlyFans. So we're seeing the agencies that handle this stuff on a national scale are seeing where content is being stolen and posted on OnlyFans. Does anybody here not know what OnlyFans is? Okay, bless your hearts. OnlyFans, if you fancy yourself a content creator, you can film yourself doing illicit things and post it on there, and people will pay you a monthly subscription. Monthly. They don't just buy it once, they pay you every month for that content. So, one thing that we're seeing human traffickers do is the whole process of setting up dates, and girls, there's risk that they run into law enforcement, there's risk that their family gets a hold of them. Whereas if I am a trafficker and I select a young girl and I have her sending me illicit videos and pictures, I can just post that on OnlyFans and I get a recurring payment every month by fans. OnlyFans is a really piss poor validation process. All you need is what looks like a valid ID to say that you're 18, and poof, there you go. You get a content creator account and off the races you go. So they're seeing a rise in either one of those two things, where the girl is sending their content to a pimp and the pimp is posting it, or it's just getting stolen outright and getting posted. Kind of went over sextortion. Sextortion is essentially what we call it blackmail, right? Where I have sent, it's going to be nude photos to somebody, they then turn around and try to get something from me. Depending on whether I'm a boy or a girl, depends on what they're going to try to get from me. It's either going to be money or more nude photos. Man, talking fast makes you thirsty. Between 2021 and 2023, there was HSI, which is Homeland Security, received 13,000 reports of sextortion. Those were all through NCC. There was 12,600 victims, and unfortunately, the really sad number is there was 14 suicides as a result of that. So it is a growing problem. Again, you're going to get the unsolicited DM. When I say DM, that's a direct message. So if I had an Instagram account, which I don't, so don't look, I would get a DM from somebody who wants to start a relationship with me. It's probably going to be a girl saying she thinks I'm cute, and then we're going to develop this relationship. It's probably not a girl on the other end. Spoiler alert. They're gonna then eventually, once the relationship blossoms, they will send me nude photos of what they say is them, which is probably not them. It's probably something that they got from another victim, or they outright stole online, or it's something that's already circulating. So they'll send me that as kind of like a verification they are who they say they are. They're then going to ask me for nudes of myself, and being, I won't say that. Being silly, I will actually do it. And then the person on the other end is going to say, wow, that's so hot, please send me another one, but now put your face in it. You laugh because it's funny, but that is an exact line that I've seen from a case that I had. Now, common sense would say red flag should be going off of, why do you want my face in this picture? But again, it happens. What do you think the most common app is that this happens on?
Facebook.
Instagram. Ooh, close. Snapchat's second. Does anybody know what Facebook did in the last 4 months to make my job really, really hard? For bonus points? No?
Algorithm change.
Nah, they encrypted their chats. So now if I write I could have a 6-year-old victim where she was met some guy online, was abused, and I write a search warrant to Facebook and say, please provide me this evidence, they're gonna tell me to kick rocks. Super frustrating for me. I already went over that. They think the messages delete. They kind of do, but sometimes if you're lucky, you can get them back from them. Who are the most victims, boys or girls?
Boys.
Boys. 90%, according to NCC, are boys. Why is that?
Money.
Money? Well, they want money. Most of them want money, yeah. I like to say it's because poor decision making is a hallmark of adolescence, especially when you're a boy. And I think it's also established science that our IQ drops 50 points when a pretty girl blats her eyelashes at us. So if I'm a young boy and some Instagram model sends me a DM on Instagram thinking that I'm cute and wants to start a relationship with me, I'm going to ignore Remember that little bit where I said, where they say, send me nudes with your face in it? I'm gonna gloss over that and ignore it. It's not gonna raise a red flag because it's a pretty girl. Again, poor decision making. The new trend in this is generative AI, where I'm going to sextort somebody with what the bad guys are doing is everybody posts way too much stuff online. Way too much. So I take your photo of you in a bathing suit or you in a bikini, and I put it through generative AI, and it basically takes that and it makes you nude or makes you doing something that you wouldn't normally be doing. Okay? I then send that to you and say, if you don't send me money, I'm going to blast this out to all your friends and everybody that you know. So you didn't actually even do the bad thing, but because of the way AI works and the way that it's getting so realistic, I don't need it. I just need a regular photo of you to make it look like you were doing something inappropriate. That's the current trend. Emojis. Who here has teenagers? There you go. Have you guys ever looked at a text message conversation with teenagers? Every other picture is a freaking emoji. We make jokes that when we get new recruits that they're going to try to write reports with emojis. And I'm just waiting for that to happen. Because it is super common. So we're going to go over a couple of these, and you guys feel free to shout out what these mean. What is that?
Marijuana.
Ah, man, you guys are good. Yeah, marijuana. Most people don't get that one. They're like, Christmas time, it's a Christmas tree. No, it's marijuana. That's a dump truck if you can't figure it. You can't see it. There you go. There's one. That a girl. Yeah, dump truck. She's got a large rear end. Clown. What if I tell somebody that call somebody a clown? What am I saying? You're a loser. You're a clown. My personal favorite?
No cap.
No. What's no cap?
No cap.
What is it? You're already doing so great. You're like batting 100. Come on. I'm not lying. No cap. Not lying. What's that? No conduct? Could be. I wouldn't be surprised. But typically it's no cap. I'm not lying. How about that guy? There you go. And because we're equal, what's that one? Yep. There you go. How about this?
We have no idea.
You can't. They're too small? Phrasing. Okay. Which one do you want to know? All of them? Okay. The clown. You're a loser. After clown. It's a hat. It's the emoji of the blue hat. They say no cap means I'm not lying. Bet. 100. Truth. Okay. Do I need to explain that one?
Yes.
Of course, you just want. Okay, fine. If that would be the eggplant emoji. If you get somebody sends you the eggplant emoji, they're being kind of rude. That's used to mean a penis.
Oh, that makes sense.
That makes sense? Yeah, it does. The taco. Vagina. Because it's equal, right? So you got to have the taco. Okay. The snowflake and the snowman, cocaine, methamphetamine, something along those lines. One of those drugs. Either one. That one always comes up hard.
Money?
Kingpin. Well, the crown is typically a pimp. So that's one. But in this instance, the one on the very, very right is a plug.
Oh,
The drug dealer. I'm your plug. I'm a drug dealer. So if you see messages from somebody on your kid's account saying they're a plug, or they just send that emoji, they're a dealer of some kind. Be it guns, drugs, whatever,
Yeah.
they're a plug, they're a dealer.
This is why kids can't
It's
sell.
fire. Oh, yeah. Everybody knows that one, right? It's fire. That's hot. The pills, yes. Weed, Xanax, Percocet, whatever they want. They're selling pills. Who wants to say this?
No idea. No idea.
If you think I'm making this up, I'm not. Find a teenager's phone and look at it. You're going to see this. So they're basically saying, I'm a plug. I got weed. I got meth. Hit me up in the DMs. 100% no legit. I'm not lying. That last one, tap in. Send me a message, call me, text me, tap in. That's the picture. The picture, you can't see it, it's kind of hard. It's like a picture of an iPhone with a little arrow in it. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's hilarious. And if you're me, you spend a lot of time on Urban Dictionary. Because when you read this and somebody says the word finna, you're going to go, what are you talking about? And then you have to go in Urban Dictionary and you have to look at it. Skibbity, yeah, skibbity toilet. Oh, good, I'm going to be started on that. So, if you go to Urban Dictionary right now and type in the word finsta, you will see the definition of what a finsta is. This is a fake Instagram. We already went over that, but again, it's a good resource. I'm on it all the time because again, I'm trying to decipher all of these text messages and I go, I have no idea what they're saying. And then I go to Urban Dictionary and figure it out. We kind of went over these a little bit this is just from my experience. I'm not a psychologist, but kids are contacted online. There's the standard grooming process. I say standard, but it's a grooming process no different if they were met them in person, right? They become their best friend. They're going to send them gifts. I deal a lot with ICAC investigations, so internet crimes against children. That comes with me doing all the digital forensic stuff. That's just, they go hand in hand. So send gifts, send money, in-game money. Who here, so again, if you have kids, who here has ever spent money on Roblox coins? How about Minecraft coins? Yeah, that's my kids, they love Minecraft. So if I was a terrible human being looking to befriend young children, one thing I might send them is Minecraft coins because they can spend it, they know how to, trust me, they know how to spend it. And so, and it's less obvious, I guess, to say. Sending them electronics. We've had this in a few investigations where if I'm a parent and I know and I'm involved in my child's life, and the bad guys know that, I don't want to leave them with that device, right? Because I don't want the parents to go through and look at it. So I will send them an iPhone that doesn't have service. Maybe it has service, but it works on Wi-Fi so that that's the one that they use to contact me on. Happens all the time. Game skins is another one. Again, they're just trying to befriend them. They're trying to be the coolest person in the entire world that they get, that gets them, that understands them, that wants to do everything with them. They then move on to telling the child to keep secrets. Basically, the first thing they're probably going to say is, keep our relationship a secret, your parents won't understand. And if they find out, they're going to not let us talk, and I'm not going to be able to send you all this really cool stuff that I've been sending you. That's all going to stop, so keep us a secret. So they'll start small with something like that, right? Something innocuous. So if you tell your kids anything, if anybody tells you to keep secrets, what we call them in my house is a tricky person, they're being tricky. They're doing that for a reason because they're trying to get something from you. So again, they're going to try to isolate them and become the kid's best friend. Then the desensitization starts. So when they do with desensitization, they're going to send them one of a couple different things. They're going to send them either adult pornography or CSAM. If they're going to send them CSAM, it's because they want them to see that this is normal. It's normal for kids to be sexually involved with adults. Okay, so it just makes them used to it. The signs are there, typically, right? Things, changes in behavior, becoming overly sexual when they used to not be, especially about topics that they don't really know about, right? Disengaging from previously liked activities. The one in the middle is a really kind of obvious one, right? So if you got a 14-year-old girl and all of a sudden she's getting her hair and nails did and walking around with a brand new iPhone 16 and doesn't have a job, that should be a huge red flag of where are you getting the money to pay for this stuff? You'd be surprised how often that's missed. And then drop in school performance, this drastic change in appearance, things like that, right? Kind of like the chief had said, right, when the pimp takes the girl to Vegas, hey, you should probably start dressing different and looking different, right? So they sometimes will do that ahead of time, especially if they're producing the content at home and sending it to the pimp for him to post online. Digital devices and the law is my favorite topic. I can talk about this for hours. So me as law enforcement, as an agent of the government, my interaction with law enforcement is dictated by something called CalECBA. It was passed, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now. And for you guys, and why it's important to you, is it spells out two different kind of categories of people. There's device owners and authorized possessors. So, show of hands, who here has a phone plan, pays for it through AT&T or one of those companies, right? Everybody's hand should go up. Okay, there we go, right? So the devices you have, you are the owner. You own that device. You can do what you want with it. Now, who here has kids and they have a phone that they, as the parent, pay for but let their kids use it? Okay? Those kids are what we call authorized possessors. Okay? So here's the kicker. CalECBA says that I, as law enforcement, cannot compel an authorized possessor to give me access to a device. They have the right to tell me no. Now, was that the legislative intent behind that? I don't know, but it's what it says. So where does this come into play? If your child has been talking with somebody online, and for whatever reason they've been brainwashed enough to think that this person is their boyfriend, and now the cops are showing up, they know what's going to happen. They know that they shouldn't be talking to this person, and they know that that person's probably their boyfriend is gonna end up getting arrested. So when I, as law enforcement, say, hey, what's the passcode to your phone? What do you think that kid's gonna tell me? Kid rocks. Do you think, who thinks, show of hands, who here thinks that you as the parent can then give me the phone and then give me the passcode? Nope. No. Because then you're acting as an agent of the government, and that creates problems for me down the line. So, there's ways, I don't want to say around it, but there's ways to mitigate this, right?
What tools do national law enforcement agencies in all the states have? You have pockets where you've got real arcane language groups and people from thousands of immigrants or diplomatic corps, so with using all these many rare languages and rare language groups and the dialects and the apps and what, I mean, you guys locally down there in the valley, there's a lot of, you know, it's multicultural, but the resources to dive into that and to vet all those many factors in organized crime and digital crime, you're overwhelmed by all these.
I phone a friend.
Huh?
I phone a friend.
Literally.
Yes. Yeah, so you're saying, like, how do I deal if I have a phone, it's set to a language that I don't speak? Is that kind of what you're dealing, right?
Many other things that might be in person or on using phone or using, I don't know, I mean.
I've been instructed to answer.
Surveillance, oh, you're not supposed to.
I'll answer questions after, just
Oh,
remind me.
okay.
Okay?
Sorry.
Because they want me to get through everything in case I run out of time, so I like to talk. Okay, you maintain what's called a possessory interest in the device, okay? So if you give your kid a phone and you know what the passcode is and you tell me that you routinely check it and you have an interest in that device, you can give me permission to go through it. I may do that when your kid's not in the room if I suspect they're gonna tell me no. As long as they don't tell me no and it's somebody who has the authority to tell me yes, then I'm good to go. It saves an extra step, and when it comes to digital evidence, time is of the essence. So what can you do? My suggestion is you be involved in your kids' digital lives. You know what they're doing online, you know who they're doing it with. Whose kids play Minecraft? That is shocking. You don't really, and we think it's a lot higher than that. Okay, have you ever played Minecraft with your kids?
Ask about grandparents.
Okay, grandparents, kids play Minecraft. Okay, there we go, there are a few more hands. Have you ever played Minecraft with your kids? Okay, most of the time people say no. So they don't know what it is, they don't know what they're doing, okay? Do that. Download the game, download the app, and try to play it. They will show you what they're doing. In my class, I talk about Roblox. Roblox, in my opinion, is more dangerous than Minecraft because the content is created by users. And Roblox, up until last year, I mean, they still kind of do, had a really big problem. There used to be games on Roblox that was simulated sex with children. Because again, the content is made by minors, and when that got out, they started trying to hammer down on all that stuff. The people are still there, but the content is gone. You can't search for it anymore. Okay. Moving on, so no passcodes on any devices. If there is a passcode, please know what it is. It makes the investigation go that much more smoothly. Okay? Be aware of alternate devices, like I said. If I have personally had cases, this was probably 2 months ago, where a young lady was talking to adults online and meeting them for dates of her own free will, or of her own choice. And so the patrol guys took the phone, and they seized it, and then when they went to go back into the account, they were locked out. So they went and found that the girl had another device that she logged into the account and logged them out. And then they took that device, and then they tried to get into the account again back at the office, and they were locked out again. So she had a third device somewhere. So just be aware. Kids are very crafty. They call them things like trap phones, or if they're really derogatory, they call them hoe phones. Questions at the end, I promise. So be aware of that stuff. Be looking for that kind of stuff, right? No devices in public spaces. No computers in their room, no iPads in their room, no phones in their room. Try to avoid that as much as you can, because if they're in there and it's private, you can't see what they're doing, they're more likely to engage in behavior and talk to things that are probably not in their best interest, okay? Make use of parental filters and content filtering. So I put Xfinity up there. Normally in my presentation, I will actually click on it and show you how to do this a little bit. But the Xfinity, which is what the biggest probably provider is up here that everybody probably has, the features on there are actually very robust. You can look and see, you know, oh hey, there's my phone, there's dad's phone, there's your iPad. Wait, what's this phone that's connected to my Wi-Fi and I don't know what it is? Okay? So you can see that and start asking questions. And then from that, once you've identified every device that's supposed to be connected to your Wi-Fi, you can actually tell your Wi-Fi, don't allow any more incoming connections at all to any device. Questions at the end? You can also set your Wi-Fi to shut off at 9 o'clock, and it just kills the Wi-Fi. So if they do have another device that doesn't have service, at 9 o'clock it no longer works because you don't have no internet. Can't do anything about your neighbors, but you can shut yours off. And then there's all kinds of apps. So I put up there just a couple of them, Bark and Boomerang. Bark is, I actually like, I haven't tried it, but I like the way that it sounds because it monitors the actual content that is being saved or being sent and received through certain apps, and Snapchat's one of them. So it uses all kinds of fancy schmancy algorithms to look for indicators of like human trafficking, sexting, sextortion, all that kind of stuff, and it sends you an alert to notify you that that's going on. And then again, almost every single app has some form of parental controls. Your iPhone has some very robust parental controls. You can set an iPhone to shut off its signal at a certain point in time too. So make use of those things. What do you do if you've tried everything, but God forbid somebody online is targeting your child? Write down the usernames, because I'm going to need that. I'm going to need that to write a search warrant to a company to figure out who bad guy is. I'll also write a search warrant to your kid's account because I want that information as well. Keep the device. Just hang on to it. Me or my partners will come take it, and then I will handle it from there. Again, if you know the passcode, please give me the passcode. But don't mess with the device as little as possible. Most people don't realize this. The data on your phone is constantly changing. It's constantly doing things and deleting and removing and doing all these things. So retain the device and call us sooner rather than later. Please don't confront the bad guy. If I was a bad guy and I was talking with somebody I knew I shouldn't be talking to, and then all of a sudden I get a message from an angry parent saying they're calling the police, I'm going to take every device I have, drive to the nearest body of water, and yeet them into the middle of the lake so that the cops can never find them. Okay? Please don't do that. It severely limits any investigating things that I can do as far as like pretending to be taking over the child account, pretending to be the bad guy, or pretending to be the child and seeing if I can figure out who this person is. When I say report to the ESP, that's the electronic service provider, so like your Snapchat, your Instagram, you can report users to them. Please do that, because they won't know where it comes from. But then the service provider will get certain details about their account, such as like, we call it an IP address and things like that, things that I can use in my investigation to figure out who they are. Report to NCC, it's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We kind of went over them a little bit. Please report it to them. The electronic service provider should do that as part of you reporting them, but they might not. So if you report it to NCC, NCC will then set some things in motion where I will get notified and with some information that I can use in my investigation. For clarity, I work in Yuba City. It's about 14 square miles. I currently have about 80 cyber tips sitting in my queue. If you think that's bad, the REACT Task Force in San Jose, which is a major player in the game, they get a couple thousand a day. It's a huge problem, and there's way not enough of us to investigate all these. That's how you report it, and then contact your local law enforcement agency, okay? Because they're gonna obviously want to start a report, and you don't want, like I said, the longer digital data stays out there, the more likely it's going to change, and it severely hinders my ability to kind of investigate things. So the sooner that I get involved with things, the better.
Okay, that,
Okay. Okay, I'll go back. There we go. Okay, questions?
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Yes, we run out of time, and I am so sorry about that. We're gonna stay after
Yes,
this answer.
I'll be around.
So he will stay and answer questions after, afterwards here. So, now I have a video I want to share with you. It's a 6-minute video. I do feel like I need to provide a disclaimer before you watch this video. It's from the Manasseh Project in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But it is very powerful and impactful, so if you have tissue with you, you might need to use it. It is just 6 minutes long, but I think it's a very important video for you to watch. And then after that, we will have our survivors come and speak, so please hold on and stay. We might end up going a little bit over because we really want to hear from them as well. So here is the video, and after that, we will have the survivors come up and speak.
You just take a seat. Thank you so much for coming in. I'm Mary, by the way.
Mary, tonight.
Tonight, nice to meet you. Don't mind the giant microphone above your head.
I'll try not to.
There are 3 photos in front of you. If you could just pick one, it doesn't really matter which one it is, and show that one to us.
All right.
Could you describe her to us?
She looks youthful. I feel like this is one of those situations where if I say he's 23, then he's actually going to be 16.
Hispanic, maybe not full apart. Similar to me, actually.
Well, I mean, she's young, so probably has a lot of things to look forward to.
I would describe him as friendly.
She looks, happy. She doesn't look shy, but confident.
Anything she puts her mind to, she could achieve.
We actually have his story, if you could read that out loud to us.
Okay, Marcus. I grew up really close to my parents. Adriana. I grew up with my brother and sister.
Amy. I remember watching the Olympics on TV when I was 5 and being totally in awe of the sprinters.
I was the middle child and easily the quietest.
I felt like no one ever saw me or cared.
Dad was too drunk to keep a job, and he never even saw me unless I was in his way.
Mom worked 2 jobs to make sure we had food for every meal, so she was never here to know when he would hit us.
One day when I went to the mall, like I like to do to be out of the house, a man came up to me and told me I was beautiful and asked me on a date.
On our first date, he drove me around in his car and said we could eat whatever I wanted.
Every time we were together, he bought me something new.
Tom really cared about me, and Tom really made me feel special.
I was in love with him.
After only going out for 3 weeks, Tom offered me a way out of my home and asked me to move in with him.
So when he asked me to have sex with him, I did.
He would put his hand over my face until I couldn't breathe.
Tom had friends over pretty regularly, and I could tell that some of his friends were into me.
So I kept my door locked and hoped that no one would bother me.
After a few nights of crashing there, he said that I still owed him for letting me stay at his place.
He said he had a friend who wanted to spend an hour with me.
He told me I might have to do some stuff, but not to worry about it. It's not a big deal.
When I didn't want to, he slapped me and said no one ever cared about me like he did.
But I didn't know what else to do because I needed a place to stay.
His friends forced themselves on me and took turns while he watched.
One by one, they'd come down to the basement, telling me how pretty I am.
When they're on top of me, I just close my eyes and pretend I'm running.
I'm exhausted and I don't know what to do.
My name is Adriana, I'm 16 years old.
My name is Marcus, I'm 14 years old.
My name is Amy, I'm 12 years old.
I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
That was very different than what I thought. Especially because like being a girl and imagining like if that was me, like that's, I don't even know, I can't even imagine what that would be like. She deserves to be a kid, just like what she is in this picture.
It being so close to home is something that makes me want to jump out of this chair.
I wouldn't think that Grand Rapids is a place where anything like this would ever happen.
Because you don't want it to happen to anybody, and you really don't want it to happen to people that live where you live.
Thank you for sharing her story with us. I'd like to show you something if you wouldn't mind taking her picture and following me to the gym.
Oh, wow.
I expected something certainly a lot smaller.
Bar graphs and numbers and, but these are actual people. I don't know, in like my world, in my bubble or whatever, we don't talk about this. It's not something you think about.
You know, what we see is only on the surface.
I mean, looking at this, sex trafficking doesn't have any discrimination, that's for sure. Ages, genders, can affect anybody.
It hits you right in your heart, your gut, your stomach. It's like, wow. Now it's like I feel like I have this weight of responsibility to see how I can help.
Changes through greater awareness and making people realize that this does happen here and will continue to happen until we decide to make a stop.
I think what really strikes home too is that it does happen anywhere. It even happens in small communities like ours. And one of the things that you're going to find in your bag are some handouts of information. And those handouts have information on how to use the apps and the games and how to put them into private status. So there's different things in those handouts of things that might be of help to you. Now I am so pleased to have the final presenters come up here from Three Strands Global. They are amazing women who are here today to share their personal experiences with you and to provide our community with some ideas of how we might be able to combat human trafficking in our area. So I could not do their introductions justice. So instead, Christy is going to come up and she's going to do the honors of introducing our survivors.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to take a moment because that video was like a lot for us here. So, yeah. I didn't know that video was going to be played right before we went on. So I'm so sorry about that.
No.
But that hits home for us. We're survivors right here. And so that's our reality. That was our reality at one point. So I have fierce women here with me. And I will get to introducing them in a moment. But first, I just want to share a little bit about myself and the organization that we're with. So I'm Christy. I'm a survivor leadership advocate at Three Strands Global Foundation. We're a nonprofit anti-human trafficking organization. And then I also am the chair of our Survivor Advisory Board. And these three lovely ladies are on our Survivor Advisory Board as well. So, and then Christina, do I have a clicker?
Yes, right there.
Oh, here it is. All right. So, I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to go through these slides pretty fast so that the panelists can have space to be able to share their lived experience and have that time. But just a quick overview. So, Three Strands, we do some prevention education. We have a K through 12 curriculum that we go all across the United States into the schools. We have different trainings for parents, caregivers, teachers, students, all kinds of different things. And I will get to the slide that shares that. I'm getting through this really fast because I want to have time. Employ Plus Empower is also, so we have that where we link survivors to employment and education. What we do is we remove any barriers that they might have, like if they need professional clothing, if they need bus passes, if they need any kind of like workforce development support. So we have somebody who works with them to, you know, help them do a resume, help them do like cover letters, help them do like mock interviewing and things like that. And so we have that Employ Plus Empower program. We have the Table, which is our empowerment center in downtown Sacramento. So we opened that a year ago. And that is for survivors of human trafficking and those at risk for. So, sorry, I'm still trying to gather myself here after that. So the Table, we have showers, we have a washer and dryer, we have a wellness center, we have a child care room, we have food, we have a food pantry. They also can eat snacks or lunch when they're there, and we have a clothing boutique. And then we also offer some light like workforce support. And so our service navigator, if there's anything there that, you know, they are trying to access that we don't have, they also provide them with resources. We partner with a lot of people in the community. And we have that, and then our survivor advisory board right here that I'm honored to. I built the survivor advisory board from a sticky note. And it was like my baby, and it started like that. And now we have 11 of us. And I'm onboarding like 5 more survivors right now. So we are growing, and we'll cap out at 30. And so that is where, so we all provide our lived experience lens so that we can make sure that everything at Three Strands is survivor informed, survivor centered, and so that survivor voice is implemented into everything that we do, basically. And then this, that is a lot of QR codes. So I have this also afterwards. We're going to be tabling, so I'm going to get through this fast, but you guys can come see us afterwards, and I have this up on the table. But as you can see, so we have Protect, we have Care, which is for caregivers. We have a Human Trafficking 101 for Rotary. We have a training for teens. We have TATE, we have Brave, True, Aware, Rise, and Human Trafficking 101. So if you guys want to know more about that, I'll show you when we get out there, but I'm going to get through this slide for now. And then, this is our panel right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit about each one of them, and then we will get into the panel questions. So as you guys already heard, I'm Christy Merrill, so I'll be the moderator and panelist. And then we have Rafaela, who I will read her bio for you. And she is on the end in the tan. So she is a survivor leader. She has worked in the anti-trafficking field for the last 4 years. As a survivor leader, Rafaela works with Community Against Sexual Harm as a crisis response coordinator to build capacity to identify and serve human trafficking survivors in the Sacramento area. Her goal is to create space that is welcoming and gives survivors belonging, acceptance, understanding, and love. During that time, she began to build her extended family with the community there to serve her. Rafaela has received her associate's degree in sociology, which has given her a deeper understanding of what socioeconomic issues people face and what it will take to address these displacements in our society. She knows one of the major issues is family or lack thereof, and with support from one another, we can create an opportunity to build. As she recovered, she began to believe the voices of encouragement in her work. And then I have Jeanette. So Jeanette is a survivor advocate and educator. She's in the middle. Jeanette is a member of Three Strands Global Foundation Survivor Advisory Board and is a dedicated advocate for human trafficking prevention and survivor empowerment. With lived experience, Jeanette has trained law enforcement agencies across California, equipping them with the knowledge and tools to respond compassionately and effectively to underage victims of sex trafficking. Driven by a deep passion for being a voice of those silenced by exploitation, Jeanette is committed to raising awareness and shining the light on the realities of trafficking. Her mission is to ensure that no one is forgotten and to foster change, positive change through education, advocacy, and survivor-centered approaches. And then last but not least, I have Christy. She's the one in the green. And Christy, BSW, proudly serving on the Three Strands Global Foundation Survivor Advisory Board. She uses her lived experience and professional expertise to advocate for survivor inclusion and service improvements. Survivors of trafficking, as a survivor of trafficking, she has over a decade of leadership in social services. Christy has presented at key events such as the California District Attorneys Association of Human Trafficking seminar and the, sorry guys, I'm struggling right now, and contributed to research on trafficking in Sacramento County. A certified evaluator in the Meaningful Engagement Toolkit through the National Survivor Network. She champions systematic change and inclusive services. She holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Social Work from California State University, Sacramento, with certifications in peer counseling, trauma-informed care, mental health first aid. In her free time, she enjoys outside activities, supporting her niece's softball games, and personal growth experiences. So that is all of our panelists. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate that. So I'm going to get right into the questions and give these ladies a chance to have that space. So, how can parents and guardians create an environment where children feel safe to share vulnerabilities or report exploitation? And then any of you guys can go at any time. You guys can just toggle.
Okay. I was making sure that I don't have a frog in my throat because that always happens, right? When you least need it. Thank you so much for having us here. It's great to include survivors' voices, especially, when talking about this subject. So the things that came to my mind for this question, creating that environment, so that your kids, so I had to take myself back to what it felt like. There are some barriers, so if your home life has a culture of, don't talk to other people, don't trust people, and don't feel things, it absolutely makes it hard to reach out, and it's so crucial that when somebody is vulnerable enough to actually say something, to believe them and then actually act on it. And then also not to punish them for it. So I remember when I was 17 and I was going through a lot of struggles, and I told my dad I had enough, and I was like, well, I can't fix these problems on my own. It didn't go the way that I thought in my head. There was no action. I was still left on my own to try to figure everything out. I got punished, which wasn't very helpful. I felt a lot of shame. And then I already had other things, like when I went to my family and would say something that I wasn't believed, so I already had that trauma. And so it just, not being supported, it made it harder and harder for me to be able to ask for help or let anybody in. And so just really creating a space that, that you're listening. So, and that you do take action and that you do believe somebody is really important. Thank you, Christy.
So my situation, I do have a teenager. She's getting ready to be 15 this year. One big thing that we go by in my household is your voice, your choice, which means she calls the shots for her. I was trafficked at the age of 12, so I didn't have my voice or my choice. So that's a big law in my household. Another thing is just opening a space. Sometimes we don't want to hear some things that our teenagers have to say, but it's all how you react to it as well, because you want them to feel comfortable to tell you if they got assaulted or if they're in a bad situation. So for me, I open the grounds, I fully hear her, And if I have my phone, anything goes off. That way she knows that I'm fully, clearly hearing what she has to say.
Testing 1, 2. Okay, we're good. Yes, so to piggyback off of those, I don't want to be redundant, but yes, creating the space, you know, my voice, my choice. And also for parents, if you are finding that this is happening, to remember that you also need to seek some support, because that's probably one of the hardest things for us to be as parents, is to hear that our children are going through these things. And it might make it very difficult for them to be more transparent with you if you are showing signs of emotions and things that you should feel as a parent, right? I know that at Community Against Sexual Harm, where I do mostly the crisis response coordination, I've had someone recently that reaches out to me and needs that support. So obviously educating yourself, you're all here today. You need to know about the services that are here in the community. You need to understand how to contact law enforcement, what your rights are, also what your kids' rights are. So I'm grateful. You know, I think that that video made us all emotional because we've seen so much that didn't make sense. So we had so much to say, and I think it made us all speechless, because that's legitimately how a lot of those innuendos and those access points begin. And not only that, but when we speak as a community, there is not a full understanding that it's happening right here. That it has to look a certain way in order for it to be so. And it is not. So seek the support, educate yourself on what there is in the community, and also seek that advice from providers that are specific to what is disclosed to you. Because it's going to be very hard to receive them and give them the advice and support that they need as their parent. At that point, we're just not equipped, honestly.
Thank you to all three of you. When during the day did your trafficker have or gain access to you?
My trafficker was my mother, so she had access to me 24/7. I was in the foster care system, which in Sacramento County, which a lot of us do come from the system and just want somebody to love us. So I decided to run away. And I found my mom. Shortly after that, she started grooming.
So for myself, I was not necessarily introduced at that youth age. However, I was made very vulnerable after some circumstances in my life happened and made me feel like a very inadequate human, an inadequate mother, an inadequate woman. And so my trafficker had access to me just by my job. He did something really simple. He came in and he said he was allergic to pork to see how I would deal with what he had told me. I later found out he was not allergic to pork, he was a Muslim. However, him seeing that I was willing to be so respectful of what your access point was or what your request was, that it was important to me, he started coming every single day to my job. And at that point, it was just more of that grooming process, learning about me, seeing what those vulnerabilities were. So when I got laid off, his door was the first one that opened for me. So.
Yeah, you know, I love that Rafaelia touched on the last question, that everyone's experience does look very different, as you'll see that all of ours do as well. And I was thinking back on this because I had many different traffickers, or I would always say like situations, it all boiled down to when I was most vulnerable, when I was in need. I got into sex work at 17 because I found myself unhoused. I was addicted to drugs. I didn't have education on any of those things, or even what sex work was. And people came up and offered, you know, to give me money for sex, and it was a way for me to support myself to the best of my ability. And yeah, it really, every time that I was, you know, didn't have my needs met, that I needed shelter and they had somewhere for me to be able to go, I was hungry. And so then against every, my stomach and everything telling me like, don't do that, like this is wrong, you know, your needs kind of cry out a little bit more, and so then you get into situations that, if your needs were met, that you wouldn't have. But yeah, people really exploit your vulnerabilities. And then I was thinking back the first time that the first trafficker for a little bit, I was actually in rehab, and I decided to leave. I think I had just turned 18. And there was another girl, we left together, and then she introduced me to her boyfriend. Come to find out, that was her trafficker, and that's how I got introduced into that trafficking, even though that I engaged in sex work before that. So it really is people just, exploiting your vulnerabilities.
Thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable, and also touching on survival sex. I think that is something that, like, a lot of people don't really know that could be, there's sex work, there's trafficking, there's survival sex, and so I appreciate you touching on that. I'm going to try not to answer a lot of them because I want to give them space, but I will touch on my trafficking. So I was 25 when I was trafficked. So I was an adult, and my trafficker had access to me by acquaintances of acquaintances. So I hung out with the wrong people one night, and they brought me to several different houses. Who I thought I was just hanging out and partying with was somebody who recruited me. So he took me to an exploiter's house, and he slipped out. And I was left with the exploiter, and at the time I didn't know that he was a pimp. I didn't know that he was an exploiter. So when I realized that the guy was gone, and I was like, okay, I need to go home. This doesn't feel right. Like, I don't know where that guy went. He took all my stuff, he pushed me down on the bed, and he said, you're not going anywhere. And he started making calls immediately to have people come over and purchase sex with me. And so I think that it's important that we also, like, I have a 14-year-old daughter, right? And so just knowing, like, where they're at, what they're doing, having those open conversations with them too, like, are they hanging out with friends of friends of friends or acquaintances? Like, just keeping track of where your kids are, because look, it happened to me when I was 25. But our teens and our kids, like, they hang out with friends of friends. They don't know who they are. We don't know, like, who's an exploiter or recruiter, right? And so it really can happen to anybody. I didn't know trafficking was. I had no idea. I saw Pretty Woman. That's what my, like, interpretation was, like, growing up. I had no clue what trafficking was until after I was trafficked, and then people were mentioning that I was trafficked.
Right.
And I was like, I don't even know what that means. I just know something awful happened to me the last 5 months. I know I have trauma from it, but I can't even identify that. Like, so I had no idea what trafficking was until after it happened to me. And people started explaining, like, no, you were trafficked. No, I was just hanging out with the wrong people that night. Like, that's my fault. No, it wasn't, Christy. You were trafficked. And so, like, I appreciate you touching on that. Yeah. What could your community have done to educate you on trafficking?
Again, I was 12 years old. There was no support back then. Nobody was speaking about it. I didn't find out that that's what was happening until my mother was telling me to an undercover police officer. I remember her telling me to run for my life. I'm 12. Never been in trouble by the cops. I'm scared. I'm not running. And she told me to let the officer, do not tell the officers that she's my mother. So in my head, I didn't tell him she was my mom, but I gave him my mom's name. And I overheard the cop saying this is a sex trafficking case.
Yeah, absolutely. To mention what Christy mentioned, it wasn't until years later actually that I when I was working at Cash and educating, like leading groups on trafficking, that I realized that my experience was trafficking, because I always felt that that I had choice in it, that because of the decisions that I made, that's what got me there. And there was a lot of, like, blame and shame that goes along with that. And, for like trafficking was just such a big word too, right? And so you think about it had to be somebody that you don't know that snatched you in a van and took you somewhere, drove you across state lines or those type of things. And so it really is breaking down the federal definition. So, you know, that people that have been trafficked can understand, like, oh, that was my experience. And then they actually qualify for more helpful services too, based on that. And so having definite education on, you know, what trafficking is, because yes, Pretty Woman was the only thing that I even had reference to. Like I really didn't know that, you know, that, yeah, sex work was you know, not something that you should pick or do or anything because it was so glamorized, right? And just education early on is really important because then that way, when you're faced with situations, you can make an educated choice because you know what the warning signs are, right? You know what's possible, and so that you can kind of spot it. Because if you're completely blind, then you don't know. You know, it's kind of like if you're driving your car and you know the flat tire light goes on and you don't know what that means. Like you wouldn't, you know, say, well, maybe I need to go check it. But if you are educated and know that that's a red flag, like you should go check it. Like, you know, you really, it just helps you make more informed decisions. And then also just, it would have been helpful to have services for youth. So after I went to my dad and, you know, asked for help and I didn't receive that, like I searched for help and everywhere that I called. Because I was 17, they told me that there was no assistance. I have to come back when I'm 18. And then by that time, it was, you know, a slippery slope. Like you know, it gets harder and harder to get out of things as time goes on.
So I think the only thing that I could add to that, just as community, build your community. Like you guys are here today, right? It's really important on what we take, what we apply, what we choose to adopt, what we are more curious about. Ask curious questions. You know, like Christy was saying, like if you see something, say something. But if you don't know what you see, then you have to educate yourself. Take the blinders off, right? And also seek support. Like I'm still in counseling, okay? I was removed from 2018, and even though it feels amazing and the space is so different, like Christy was my case manager. And I don't really get to say that with a whole lot of the different things, the different spaces and places and people that I've been around, but we have now built this community within our community. It is our culture to care. Where we are, where we want us to be, the things that we don't know about, the implicit biases as well that we have. Check in with yourself by the end of today. Like, what did you really take? How did it make you feel? Those things are extremely important because we carry us with us anywhere we go, and there is such a big power in numbers, and we need you.
What is one thing that you are proud of that you have done since exiting your trafficking situation?
I love this question. I'm not really, it's like a lot of times, you know, you have to think, wow, what am I proud of? But it was great to take a moment, and one of the things I always love that I'm giving back to my community. I felt like I was such a nuisance. My area was in Oak Park in Sacramento, and I was a public nuisance. And like even there was a task force and all of that, like they knew me, you know, all the residents and the business owners. And so, you know, I took a lot from the community when I was, you know, running amok. And so being able to, you know, actually go back and provide services to other survivors and, you know, help build up the community and help bring safety and, help with responses, and then working with law enforcement on the other side of things. Like I'm no longer running because I have a warrant. Like I'm now I'm working at Weave and overseeing the embedded advocates at the different law enforcement departments. And so last week I went into 3 of the different law enforcement agencies, and it's just so great to really be like on the other side of things. And so I love the full circle.
A couple things I'm really proud of. One thing is the mother that I am today. I didn't allow my trauma to stop me from being a mom. Another thing I'm proud of is coming and doing things like this. I love to come and teach people about things because each and every one of us have different times, different seasons that it happen, but our team works very, very well together. And I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being my survivor sisters.
Of course, girl. Always.
Yes, double that. The service, right? I think that's the big piece. I feel like three of the 4 or 5, maybe 6 agencies that helped me in getting not only my youngest child back, but also keeping my sobriety and working through those wounds so that I can sit here today and say I'm proud to be me. I've been able to give back to, right? And honestly, we need peers everywhere. And so I'm excited because I'm one of those guys that would never call 911. I promise you, I'm proud to call 911 today. That's really big for me. And when we really need that support to be able to trust the fact that law enforcement is going to come and is going to receive me the way that I want to be received. And also, what other spaces I can go into. And instead of hating those things that I have found about myself along the way, the places where I need to take accountability, I've learned to dance with myself. All of those things are things that I get to come back and bring up to fruition to understand a little bit more. I'm sure everyone in this room has experienced trauma. It's just not all of us talk about it. And it's hard because a lot of the times when we do speak, someone else is dying to speak. And just hearing you share is giving them the courage to take it a little bit step further, a little bit closer, to not only feeling important, but deserving of love, because that is a really big piece with this. This vulnerability, I can say, is that I did not love myself. Today, I love myself. I can't say I don't still struggle, right? I might be at like 86 or 87%, I'm gonna be transparent, right? But when I walked through those doors and was seeking services and was welcomed with love, the belonging, the compassion, the acceptance, the non-judgment, and not only that they had been through what I went through and they look like me today, I wanted that. I needed that. So I'm proud to say that I've lived a few lives and I didn't do it for nothing. And I'm grateful to see how many of you are here and that I can speak and not have a panic attack anymore. I'm proud of that, right? So thank you for creating that space.
I think I'm feeling better now. So. I was going to share mine too, just really quick. I know we're running out of time. The nerves have shaken off, so now I can speak. So for me, I think mine is like, I always say this, and I know it's very like, it's catchy, but it's something that me and my mom have always said is like, from tragedy to triumph. And so I think just being able to like, everything that I've been through in my life, like it is not like, there's so much sensationalism and like, oh, the poor trafficking survivor, like there's too much of that. And so it's like, now we get to say no, but like there's triumph, right? Like we have overcome, and not only that, but like us right here on this panel, we get to share a lived experience to instill hope in others that have experienced these things. And that to me is super powerful and impactful. And then I get to share a board with like all these badass like survivors. Sorry for my French, but like these women are fierce. They are fierce, and I get to share a board with them, and every time that I see them or we do something with our survivor advisory board, I'm like, man, what a privilege that I get to sit up here and like moderate this and like be a part of your guys' journey. And you guys teach me things, you inspire me, and it's a privilege for me. But like I never thought when I got out of my trafficking situation that this is what I was gonna do. It wasn't I was like, I want to be in the anti-trafficking field. God threw me in with CSEC youth, so youth that had been trafficked in group homes. And I was like, nope, I can't do this every day. Like, it was rough. I was on the verge of like tears every night going home because it was heartbreaking. And it was very triggering. But I stood it out. Like, I was able to say, okay, wherever you want me, God, I'll be there. Like, that's where you want me. And I was able to withstand it, and then I learned to love it. And I was like, this is my purpose. This is where I'm meant to be. And I've been doing it now 11 years. And so now I get to do it in a different capacity. Like, from direct care with survivors, I get to do things like our Survivor Advisory Board and build out new survivor-led programs at 3 Strands and different things that are like, it's such a privilege and an honor for me. And if I would have looked back 13 years ago, I would have never thought that I was going to be up here today with these ladies. So that's something that I'm proud of, to be with all of you guys. All right, I think we have one more, and I know we're getting close. So what is something that you feel or that you hope the audience will learn or do with what they have learned here today? Did you hear that? Want me to repeat it? No. Okay.
One thing that I hope that everyone has learned is that it happens everywhere. There's not just one specific person that you can be like, oh, they're going to be trafficked. It can happen to your brother, your sister, your mom, anybody that you know. And as long as you're a safe person that they feel like they can release to, allow them to do that, because a lot of us don't trust. I barely started trusting people again, and I'm 33. But now that I've done, I'm in this field, I want to teach people about it, because a lot of people don't understand that it could be your mom that does it to you. It could be anybody that does it to you. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the internet. It doesn't have to be in other situations like that. It can happen right in your household.
Yeah, definitely piggyback off of that. Yeah, trafficking doesn't discriminate. And it really just boils down to, like, we're just triaging people after the fact, but as long as there's demand to buy humans for sex, there will continue to be survivors. And so really have to change the perception that it's okay to buy somebody else for your pleasure. And then once that's changed, then hopefully we won't have, like we saw in that video, just such a wall of people that are affected, and then that's just in one city too, right? And so it really goes back to breaking that supply and demand chain.
So yes to all of that, and also remember that you're important. Right? If you have somebody that is in your life that is showing different signs, different things that are changing, instead of going quick and thinking you know what's going on, just send them something simple that is like a hello. Something that if it's someone you love, or just send them those messages. If they cross your mind and it's somebody that you're stuck and you know they're going through some things and they cross your mind, send them a message. Not asking them what they're going through or nothing like that, just reminding them that you're there. Because what I can guarantee is if they are in that situation and they go into survival and they're going to have to flee, they're going to remember you. And you will probably be the first person that they call. And really, we need that. Because for me, I had to become homeless. I had burnt the bridges with my trafficker, with my mother, with my sister, with everyone around me, even my oldest daughter. To this day, she will be 17 in July. However, I kept her away from my trafficker. My point is this. When I ran, I had nobody to reach out to. So I'm very grateful that I'm a believer, but not all of us are, right? And by the grace of God, I was able to do those things and get into situations, but it costed me. I had to become a slave now to other things. I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't go and make money. So I did different things. It just put me in a way worse situation. And for me, I got lucky and got pregnant. So then all of a sudden, I cared a little bit more about the baby inside of me because I had given up on myself. But how many of us are there that, like, we don't pray that?
I'm just saying that God has been good to me, but we need you. I mean that. I've said it. It's the second time. I'm saying it one more time. We need you. So just please remember that. Thank you.
Thank you to all three of you for being so vulnerable and sharing so many personal things about yourself, and just that vulnerability and the expertise, and I appreciate you. All right, so I know we're running out of time, but I will take just a couple questions, and then afterwards we will all be out tabling. So I have a ton of flyers, I have business cards, you can come up and ask us questions as long as they're appropriate and trauma informed. Like, please don't come up and ask us our whole story, anything like that, but we'll be here afterwards if anybody wants to come chat with us. Yeah.
I have one question, and that is, in your own experience, what could have been helpful in prevention?
One thing that could have been helpful in prevention is, like Ralph said, is somebody that even says hello, because that one person that is speaking to you, that is consistent, even if you're pushing them away and they're staying there, you always know that's a safe person.
Yeah, and then just again, education, you know, having education starting probably, you know, age appropriate in elementary school and then continuing on, you know, just so that, again, when, you know, you're online and, you know, somebody says something, you can see, you spot the red flags, but you don't know those until they are.
Yes, you in the blue and black. Yes, that's you.
Christy, you jokingly mentioned something about running from women. It occurred to me, I wondered how maybe if any of you are involved in legislative or lobbying efforts to help victims of sex trafficking who have criminal records, are having difficulty getting jobs. Are there any efforts that you're involved in to get criminal records expunged?
I know that for myself, I'm learning right now. So my CEO and other people at Three Strands are kind of taking me under their wing. I haven't been into policy and legislation. That wasn't my thing. I did direct care and then survivor-led services, but now I'm learning a lot more, and I'm trying to be more involved because I think that us as survivors, our voice matters there. And us testifying, us getting up and saying me too, like all the things that I'm learning right now, I think it's very important. I know that we have 11 SAB members, Survivor Advisory Board members right now, and we're growing, and I know that a handful of them on our board absolutely work on policy and legislation in that way.
Yeah, policy changes are so important. As a person, I had to expunge my record the first time I got denied. The second time, and then I just lost hope for quite some time. And then I had help with it, which was nice because I had, I think, 9 charges, and that's a lot of paperwork. And so that process is hard, and if you don't qualify for the fee waiver, then it's expensive because I think it's $120 per case, and it's not guaranteed that it even gets dismissed. There is also a vacature that's available now, and more agencies are being able to help with that, and it is specifically for survivors of human trafficking. And you know, if their crimes were as a result of their trafficking, that it seals it too. So it's actually way, you know, it's better than just having your record expunged. More agencies are helping with that. At Weave, the legal department does help with that, and there's just so many more agencies that are helping, and so that's you know, something that's kind of new, that's becoming more and more accessible.
I just wanted to add that we also do that similar support at Community Against Sexual Harm. We don't have the legal support, but we do have our advocates and our Victims of Crime program and our human trafficking program that will partner with them and go through that process. And we are also peer-led, so a few of us have had to go through that process as well.
All right, I think that time is up, so I'm going to go to the next slide and then we will go out to the table. So this is just a QR code with a whole bunch of different resources for you guys. It's not just 3 Strands resources, but like the National Human Trafficking Hotline and other resources are on there. And then that's my information, and we will see you guys at the table. Thank you for having us.